Have you heard that Miss Universe is now accepting married women and mothers to compete at Miss Universe? Welcome to the channel. My name is Dani Walker. My mind is blown over this announcement, and I'm sure so many of you out there are just as surprised as I am. Thank you so much for clicking this episode. If you enjoy content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that notifications bell if you want to see more like it. By the way, if you're a pageant contestant, don't forget to check out the free pageant prep course that's linked below. I know so many of you out there who watch this channel every week want to know what my opinions are about this. And first and foremost, I just want to say it really doesn't matter. This doesn't personally affect me. I'm not competing anymore. They haven't changed the age division guidelines. So nothing in my life is really affected by this. And so I don't really have any skin in the game. I'm like, okay, if they're letting them compete, it doesn't have anything to do with me. So that's really how I feel about this personally, but I want to ask many important questions about this because I'm just like, how is this all going to work out? How is it going to happen? So these are some things that I'm sure that they've thought about, but I don't know how far ahead that they've really started making plans for what's about to happen. First, I'm going to start by reading you a statement from Amy Emmerich. If I'm mispronouncing that, please forgive me. She is the CEO of the Miss Universe organization. She said, "As you know, the Miss Universe organization has always strived to evolve with the changing times to best represent and support women globally. Since I arrived at the organization in January 2022, I have been evaluating our processes, procedures, and rules regarding eligibility to ensure they represented the brand's values. Paula, president of the organization, has been with me on this journey. As part of the next step in our evolution, we have implemented the following changes. Effective with the 72nd Miss Universe competition and national preliminary competitions leading up to it, women who are or have been married, as well as women who are pregnant or have children, will be able to compete. We all believe that women should have agency over their lives and that a human's personal decisions should not be a barrier to their success. Recent data also shows that the average age of marriage for women and first-time pregnancy globally begins at 21. Despite the difference in our cultures and beliefs, this allows all women to put their fate in their own hands, and we will accommodate whoever is Miss Universe accordingly. We look forward to continue welcoming even more aspirational women to our community as a result of these latest changes." This sounds all wonderful in theory. And personally, listen, I'm about creating more opportunity for women. And if this is the way to do it, great. Like I said, it's not really affecting me, so I'm like, But I want to share with you a couple of things from personal experience. So when I was Miss Montana USA, I had a very similar experience to that of my sister queens. I will tell you, for me, on a personal level, it was a very challenging year for me because there were so many things that go on behind the scenes. And if you want to see a little bit of that, watch my Road to Miss USA series. Watch my episodes where I share with you what it's really like at Miss USA rehearsals or traveling as a title holder. You can watch all of those episodes to get more of my in-the-moment, present insights. But what I learned is that it was a very, very challenging year for myself and for many other title holders. It was not possible for myself at the time to have any type of a relationship. Not to say I didn't try, but did it ever work out? No. It's so difficult because of the responsibilities of being a title holder. Many of my sister queens, for example, were in relationships when they won their state titles, and those relationships could not withstand the year ahead of them. Some of them were even engaged. Their engagements were not able to make it past their year, or those relationships ended shortly after they crowned their successor. There's just so much that goes on behind the scenes that not a lot of people are seeing, and you will never get it until you're in the shoes of that title holder and you're placed under so much scrutiny. So personally, I could not even imagine trying to maintain a marriage while I was competing for Miss USA or Miss Montana USA for that matter. So now I want to ask quite a few questions about how in the world this is going to work. I am so curious to see how all of this is going to play out. Like I said, I'm not really invested in this. I'm not a contestant anymore, but I'm really curious what all of your opinions are on this and how you think that these questions should be addressed. Let's remember that Miss Universe CEO Amy said that they will accommodate whoever is going to win this pageant. So with that being said, I am curious about these accommodations because to me, they sound quite pricey, and it's been a struggle in recent years for viewership for pageantry, especially within the United States, bringing in new contestants, budgets. We've seen a lot of budget cuts happen to Miss USA, to Miss Universe. A lot of budget cuts happened prior to the organization going to Crystal Stewart. So I'm like, how is this all going to play out? Very curious. Here's my scenario number one. Let's imagine we have a new Miss Universe and she is married. And I am assuming she still gets her apartment in New York, but for the sake of argument, let's say she still has her apartment in New York. So what happens to her life with her husband at that point? Do she and her husband both uproot their lives and move to New York for the year? How is he going to be able to financially support himself? Is his wife at that point asking him to give up his own dreams or his own aspirations or put them on hold for a year so that she can be Miss Universe? What if he has a job that he loves? Let's say that he is a teacher and he loves his school, his district, his students, and he doesn't want to leave that for a year. At this point, is he now forced to choose between his wife being Miss Universe or the life that he wants for himself that he thought he would have with his wife? Also, is there an expectation for him to quit that job and, let's say, find a new teaching job in New York, which could be possible, but it also depends on the timing of Miss Universe and when the pageant is. You usually can't just jump in at any point during a school year if you have a teaching job. Sometimes you have to wait for a new school year or a new semester. That's just one example. So how do you ask the husband to uproot everything and move to New York for a year? Or do you tell him, sorry, not for you, you can't live in the apartment? Or if they're willing to accommodate the newly married title holder, does this mean maybe her husband gets to stay at home and they just pay for the travel expenses for him and her to commute back and forth together so that they can still spend time together and maintain their marriage? Another important thing I think to think about is now, since MUO says that they are willing to accommodate title holders who are married or have children or are pregnant, what is now the expectation for the national organizations to make such accommodations as well? In many national pageants, part of the prize package is accommodations for the year. You get yourself a new apartment. And so in that case, now do national organizations also have to foot the bill of moving a husband to a new city or compensating him for lost wages if he chooses to move to that city with his wife? I'm very curious about this. Another scenario we can think about is a contestant who is engaged who decides to get married during her year. Let me just say, from very recent personal experience, I've had quite a few of my good friends and family members get married, and I have watched every single one of them for months get really stressed out over planning their wedding. They have to go to food tastings, venue appointments, meetings with their wedding planner. There's also all the extra stuff, bachelorette parties, bridal showers, engagement parties, shopping for your wedding gown. There's so much that goes into planning that wedding. I could not imagine planning a wedding and being Miss Universe at the same time. It would be very difficult to do both. Is she going to be traveling back to the country where she's from to participate in all of her wedding activities, between there and New York? Is she just gonna say, oh well, now things have to be postponed because this is far too difficult? Or is she gonna say, everybody, we're gonna do everything in New York, so if you care to be a part of this part of my life, fly out to New York for the bridal shower, the bachelorette party, and all of those different things? I feel like a Miss Universe title holder who is in that stage of her life is going to have to make a lot of tough decisions there and compromises that you wouldn't have to make if you weren't getting married while you're Miss Universe. Next scenario, let's talk about this. Let's say we have a pregnant Miss Universe, or one who gets pregnant or is at somehow the end of her pregnancy during the competition. And there's also lots of situations there, because if you're pregnant, that doesn't necessarily mean you're married to somebody or in the relationship with that other person. So that's a whole other thing in itself. I'm just wondering what kind of accommodations will be made for a pregnant Miss Universe. I think it's really important because you also don't know what's going to happen in a pregnancy. There are high-risk pregnancies, and a part of that means bed rest or certain treatments or certain doctor's appointments that you have to be at, that you cannot miss for the health of the mother and for the child. So what if you have a pregnant Miss Universe and the doctor says, sorry, she's going to need to be on bed rest for the next 2 months or something? Lots of different things happen. And so in that case, does a first runner-up then get crowned as Miss Universe? We always hear this speech at the pageant. If for any reason the title holder cannot fulfill her duties, then the first runner-up will take her place. So does that qualify as not fulfilling your duties if you have to be on medical leave for the health of your child, for your pregnancy? That, I think, is a really, really important question. At what point can a first runner-up step in, and will she do that permanently? Is the crown passed over, or is she sort of this temporary Miss Universe title holder and a person who is able to fulfill the responsibilities or to go on required appearances or to uphold certain contracts and partnerships that the Miss Universe organization, for example, has with sponsors or events? You have to think that sometimes these agreements are made prior to a contestant winning, and so how do we ensure that the new title holder is able to keep up with all of those responsibilities? I think that that's a really, really important thing to be thinking about. Also, if you have a Miss Universe that happens to give birth during her reign, the average maternity leave, if you Google it, is anywhere between 10 to 12 weeks. So imagine you have your queen, and now for 10 to 12 weeks, she's out, honestly, as she should be. She just had a baby. Give her some time, right? She should be able to have that moment with no pressure, with her new baby and with the family and getting used to being a mom, if this is her first time being a mom, or even if it's her 5th time being a mom. I mean, so many people talk about the value of being able to set aside that time with your children, and I know that if I ever become a mother, that's on my high list of priorities, is spending that dedicated time with my child. So that's another scenario. Does the first runner-up take over when the new title holder is caring for her child? Also, a lot of women go through postpartum depression, and I can't imagine mixing postpartum depression with all the scrutiny you face as a title holder. That can definitely take a really, really big effect on your mental health and your wellness, and I think that that's something that's just so important, that at the end of the day, pageants are fun and the opportunities are amazing, but what are we really doing for the care of that young woman? It's very important, to me at least. The last kind of scenario that I want to talk about, and there are so many things that can occur with these new rules, but I think a really big one is, what if she is already a mother and she could be a single parent, she could have a husband, she could have a partner, and so there's that whole entire family dynamic. But what does this mean? Is she still going to move to New York, and now will she uproot her entire family? And there are so many factors when we think about how old is her child at that time. Is the child too young to be put in school full-time, meaning elementary school and older? Is the child a toddler? How much care does the child need? A lot of mothers, of course, still work and have full-time jobs and careers and have childcare. But now, does that childcare cost and expense fall upon Miss Universe? From the statement they put out, it sounds like it does. And if it does, that's fantastic. But I think it's still something that's going to be really, really important. And if you had a child that was in elementary school, or what if I had a child that had special needs and I had worked so hard to find them the right teachers, the right tutors, to work with them, to make sure that my children are successful. It's not easy to always find the resources that you need for your child in a new city. And let's face it, when you're Miss Universe, you're going to be busy with your media tour, attending other pageants, volunteering. There's just like so much that goes into it. So personally, if I were a mother, I feel like it would be really difficult for me to just remove my children from the life that they're used to, depending on what grade they're at in school. You may be taking them away, like I said, from different resources, from their friends, from their community. That can be really challenging for a child, and I think it's a really big ask of your family. Now, of course, there's a lot of people, yes, that they're relocating for work, but this is a very, very unique job that is going to consume a lot of your time, a lot more than just the normal, hey, I go into the office 9 to 5. This isn't a 9 to 5. This is, I'm going on international trips, and I'm going to be out late, and I'm going to be busy for several days, and I'm going to have to be up for 5 a.m. call times, and there's so much that goes into it. Now, we do see celebrities take their children with them on things like tours, but I think that the distinction here with celebrities versus a Miss USA or a Miss Universe or any national title holder is just the resources that they have access to. So a lot of these celebrities that travel with their children have great access to tutors, nannies, and so much extra care and so much help. So I'm just wondering how much of the budget is set aside for those things. Will there be limitations put on those things if you're a Miss Universe? Now, personally, I love the idea of being able to travel, to have a unique lifestyle, to bring your children with you. In fact, that's a big part of why I do what I do in the future. I really hope to have that type of life where I can give my children unique experiences, where they can travel with me, where we can bring tutors, where we can have a really cool hybrid learning situation where, yes, we can do classroom learning, we can do online learning, and they can learn while we travel. Like, that's my ideal personally. I would love that. But I know that's not always possible, and it's not always the ideal for everyone, and everybody's family dynamic and situation is so different. So I'm genuinely curious how this is going to work out for these title holders, for the organization. I wonder about the financial aspect of this and how they plan on pulling all of this off. It's just really, really interesting to me, and I think that it's not an easy thing to decide. It's not something that's so simple, and there's so many factors that should be taken into consideration. And at the core of these factors, what we should be thinking about is the well-being of our title holders and their family, and we should care about their relationships with their families, with their marriages, with their children. I think all of those things are so important, and it's not just so easy as saying, yeah, we're allowing these contestants to compete now and we'll make accommodations for them, because now you're not just involving a young woman in changing her life, you're actually changing her family's life. And I personally just think family is really, really important, and these are big choices. And if I had children, or if I had a husband or a fiance or anything like that, it would be a really, really big conversation for me to have with them, and it would be such a huge ask for me to come to them and say, I want to be Miss Universe, this is my dream, are you willing to go along with this? Those are the things that I'm thinking about. There's so much to this. I'm just, like I said, my mind is blown. In one way, I'm excited. I think more opportunities for women are great, but in another way, I also see that this could just cause a lot of strain in somebody's personal life and personal relationships. And as wonderful as it would be to be Miss Universe and have this international fame and all of these things that people want in life, at the end of the day, I think that your mental health, your well-being, your relationships with your family and your friends are also very, very important. And it's important to have that balance. So very interesting, lots of big conversations here. I would love to hear everybody's take on all of this. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And let's remember to keep this all positive though. Remember, at the end of the day, we really want to just support young women in pageantry anyways, to create the most opportunities we can for them. Don't forget, if you want to keep up with coverage of Miss USA and Miss Universe this year, that you can check out these other recent episodes that I've created just for you. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I hope that you enjoyed watching it and that you'll come back for lots more. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notifications bell, and I'll see you next time.